What if the reason your kids literally won't get off their iPads has absolutely nothing to do with their willpower
Right.
and like everything to do with how your family actually handles transitions? Think about that for a second.
It's a huge shift in perspective.
It really is, because we spend so much time blaming, the algorithms, the tech companies, or just our kids' lack of focus.
Oh, totally. We point the finger outward.
Exactly. But today, we are looking at a blueprint that argues the modern parenting crisis isn't actually a discipline problem at all.
Not at all. It's an architecture problem.
Right, an architecture problem.
That's right.
So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking you, the listener, into the actual mechanics of a totally new age approach to parenting.
And it is so fascinating.
It is. And our mission today is highly specific. We are unpacking how to dismantle all that old school reactive chaos,
The screaming matches, the chronic stress.
the digital burnout, all of it.
Yeah.
And we're looking at how to replace it with intentional, positive engagement that actually involves the whole family.
That's the key right there, the whole family.
Yeah. And the kicker for you listening, it is actually designed to be incredibly easy to apply once you understand the machinery behind it.
Okay, let's unpack this machinery. Because that shift you mentioned from a discipline problem to an architecture problem, that is really the crux of everything we are looking at today.
Yeah, we have a really interesting stack of sources on the table for this one.
We do. We are pulling from a whole ecosystem of resources created by a brand called Fathers R Us.
Also known by their movement, built by fatherhood, right?
Exactly. And we're not just looking at one piece of their puzzle. We have a whole stack of their materials to go through.
So we're integrating their core philosophy from the Fathers R Us Family Development Manifesto,
Plus the really tactical boundaries outlined in their age-by-age digital wellness guide.
which is basically a screen time cheat sheet.
Yes, very practical. And then the Behavioral Execution Manual, which is the CALM guide to positive discipline.
And that one is published by Big Brother Publishing.
Right. And what is so compelling here is how these documents, they don't operate in silos.
They all connect.
They absolutely do. They address the dysregulated modern family as a complete interconnected system.
Okay, let's unpack the system then, because I was reading through that manifesto, and immediately the language just strikes a very particular chord.
It really does.
Yeah.
It has a very specific tone.
Yeah, their mission isn't just about, getting kids to behave. It's about helping parents become, and this is a quote, present, connected, and impactful.
Which sounds great on paper, right?
It does, but then they use terms like intentional fatherhood and emotional intelligence and family leadership.
And that's where people sometimes get tripped up.
Totally. Because I look at a phrase like family leadership, and my immediate thought is that it sounds a bit like, I don't know, corporate HR jargon applied to a toddler.
Right, like you're going to give your 3-year-old a performance review.
Exactly. Like, what does that actually mean for you on a Tuesday evening when everyone is just completely exhausted and crying?
Well, it definitely sounds corporate if you view leadership through the lens of a boss barking orders at employees.
Which is how a lot of people parent.
Exactly. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, let's look at the psychology of what they are actually proposing here.
Okay, lay it out for us.
Historically, parenting, and especially fatherhood, which this brand historically centers on, though they do expand the net widely, but historically it was framed around absolute authority.
Right. The whole because I said so model.
Precisely. The parent is essentially a dictator. The currency of that household is fear and compliance.
You do what I say because I am bigger and, well, I control the wifey.
Exactly. But family leadership fundamentally reframes the adult's role. A true leader, whether in an organization or a family, doesn't just dictate.
They guide.
They engineer an environment where development can happen. They are guiding the ship, not just ruling the crew.
That makes a lot of sense.
The manifesto talks heavily about creating a lasting legacy. And you just don't create a real legacy through fear.
No, you create it through modeling, right? Like emotional regulation.
Exactly. You model the behavior you want to see.
It really makes me think of the difference between being a firefighter and, being an architect.
Oh, that is a great analogy. How so?
Well, if you are operating under that old dictator model, you are essentially just a firefighter, right?
Yes, constantly reacting.
Exactly. You wait until a behavioral fire breaks out, like a tantrum over a toy.
Or a teenager just flat out refusing to do homework.
Right, and then you rush in with the hose, you yell, you threaten consequences, you put out the immediate fire.
But then you are completely exhausted.
Exhausted, covered in soot, and basically just waiting for the next alarm to ring. You are just chronically reactive.
which unfortunately is the physiological state of most modern parents.
It really is. Everyone's so stressed.
They are living in a perpetual state of hypervigilance, and their nervous systems are just completely frayed,
Waiting for the next meltdown.
waiting for the next meltdown, yeah.
Yeah, right. But this architectural approach, this whole intentional presence thing, it's about designing a fireproof house from the start.
By laying down systems.
Yeah, you are laying down routines, establishing visual systems, and actually building family bonding activities.
So that the environment itself prevents the fires from even igniting.
Or, I mean, at the very least, when a fire does start, it's like a small, contained campfire in a fire pit.
Not the whole kitchen burning to the ground.
Exactly. But here is the challenge I see when you read the manifesto. They call the movement Built by Fatherhood, right?
Yes, that's the core branding.
But then they explicitly call on mothers, mentors, educators, and the whole community to get involved.
They cast a very wide net.
Why broaden the net so wide if the core branding is so heavily about fathers?
Well, because the architecture fails if it's built in a vacuum.
What do you mean?
Let's say a father is practicing this high-level, emotionally intelligent family leadership. He's calm, he's setting boundaries.
William being the architect.
Right. But then the child goes to a mentor or an educator or even the other parent who is still using that outdated, reactive, dominant discipline.
Ah, so there's a clash.
A massive clash. The child experiences extreme cognitive dissonance. This blueprint entirely relies on consistency.
Right, because the manifesto literally states, strong families build strong futures.
Exactly. And the underlying psychological principle here is that children absolutely thrive on predictable environments.
They need to know what to expect.
If the rules of emotional engagement change drastically depending on which adult happens to be in the room, the child's nervous system stays on high alert.
They can never truly relax into the structure.
No, they can't. And that is exactly why these tools are designed universally to create a cohesive ecosystem around the child. Everyone has to be on the same page.
That sounds, frankly, idyllic. A cohesive ecosystem of emotionally regulated adults guiding purpose-driven children.
It's the dream, isn't it?
It is a dream. But let's crash back down to reality for a second here.
Okay, let's do it.
We can talk about intentional presence all day, but how do you actually achieve that when the primary relationship in your house isn't between parent and child?
You're talking about the screens.
I am. The primary relationship is between the child and a glowing rectangle. These screens are just the wrecking ball to this beautiful architecture we're talking about.
They absolutely are. The digital landscape is the ultimate test of this family leadership model.
It really is the modern minefield.
Which is why their age-by-age digital wellness guide is such a critical piece of this ecosystem. It directly targets that modern overwhelm.
And we are not just talking about generic, kids watch too much TV advice here.
No, it's much more specific than that.
The guide identifies highly specific pain points that escalate as the child actually ages.
They map it all out.
Yeah, they map out excessive phone use, tablet dependency, gaming addiction, and social media pressure.
It covers the whole spectrum.
But here's where we really need to dig into the mechanics of this. The guide categorizes the boundaries strictly by age.
Yes, from toddlers all the way up.
Right. Toddlers up to 2, preschoolers 3 to 5, elementary, preteens, and teenagers.
It's a very granular breakdown.
Why is that granularity so critical? Because honestly, a lot of parents just want a universal rule. Like, just tell me 1 hour of screens across the board and let me be done with it.
I get the appeal of that, but a universal rule fails completely because a 2-year-old's brain and a 14-year-old's brain are entirely different biological machines.
They are processing completely different realities.
Exactly. Let's just look at the neurology for a second.
Please do.
For a toddler, a screen is primarily a sensory input device. Their brains are actively trying to map physical reality.
Like gravity, texture, things like that.
Yes, gravity, texture, spatial awareness. When they are locked onto a tablet, that vital neural mapping literally pauses.
Wow. It just pauses.
It does. Tablet dependency at age 3 actively hinders fine motor and spatial development.
That's terrifying. But what about the teenagers?
Well, when you move to a teenager, the screen isn't just sensory input anymore. It is literally their entire social hierarchy.
It's where they exist.
Social media pressure taps directly into the adolescent amygdala, which is hypersensitive to peer rejection and social standing at that age.
So it's life or death for them socially?
It feels like it to them. So if you try to apply a toddler's screen time rule to a teenager, you aren't just taking away a toy.
What are you taking away?
In their mind, you are actively severing their connection to their social survival.
Oh, wow. That puts a whole new spin on it.
The guide recognizes that the digital minefield requires entirely different navigational tools depending on the developmental stage.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. That is a crucial distinction. It's not just about watching the clock, it's about the actual cognitive impact of what they're watching.
Yes, quality over just quantity.
And that leads to something really unique in the guide. It doesn't just mandate time limits, it heavily delineates between educational screen time and entertainment screen time.
The active versus passive debate.
Exactly.
And this is vital because the dopamine response is entirely different for those two brain states.
Break that down for us.
Passive entertainment like, say, endlessly swiping through short-form videos on TikTok, or just watching someone else play a video game on YouTube.
Which kids do for hours.
Hours. That delivers cheap, unearned dopamine. It creates a loop of instant gratification with zero cognitive effort.
And that is where addiction really takes root, isn't it?
It absolutely is. But active educational screen time, like a phonics game or a coding puzzle or an interactive language app that requires cognitive engagement.
They actually have to think.
Right. The child has to solve a problem to get the reward. So the guide forces the family architect to evaluate not just the volume of screen time, but the nutritional value, so to speak, of the digital diet.
That's a great way to put it, the nutritional value. And it also explicitly ties those screen habits to sleep and behavior, which we all know are connected.
Very closely connected.
Okay, so this all makes total sense in a laboratory, right? Or on a podcast.
Sure, in theory.
But let's talk about actual execution, because this is where I really struggle with the guide when I read it.
Okay, what's the hang-up?
Well, it is described as a simple, printable parenting guide. They literally tell you to print it out as a cheat sheet and stick it right on the refrigerator.
They do. It's meant to be highly visible.
So I have to ask the obvious question for you listening at home who might be thinking the same thing. I am a parent with a teenager who is like completely dependent on social media.
Yeah.
Or I have a toddler who goes absolutely feral when the iPad is taken away.
We've all seen that meltdown.
How does a piece of paper on the fridge solve a neurobiological addiction? I mean, the paper can't enforce anything.
No, it can't grab the phone out of their hands.
Right. It sounds entirely too simple, almost like dangerously naive.
Well, if you view the piece of paper as some sort of magical shield, yes, it's completely naive.
Right.
But you have to look at the psychological function of that printed document. It operates as a family command center.
Command center. Okay.
By taking the rules out of the parent's head and putting them into a physical, visual standard, a standard that the family has ideally discussed and agreed upon beforehand, you are completely altering the power dynamic of the conflict.
Okay, explain that dynamic. Because right now, the dynamic in most homes is usually, I say time is up, the kid screams, and then I just yell louder.
Precisely. In the traditional model, the parent is the enforcer. You are the bad guy.
Yeah, I'm the one ruining their fun.
When screen time is over, the parent barks an order. Turn it off. You've been on it too long.
Right.
From the child's perspective, this rule feels totally arbitrary. It feels subjective.
Like I just decided in that moment to be mean.
Exactly. It feels like it's based entirely on the parent's current mood or level of exhaustion. So what does the child do? They attack the parent.
They argue, they negotiate, they throw the tantrum.
Because the parent is the direct source of the deprivation. But when the printed guide is on the fridge, the parent isn't the dictator anymore.
Who are they then?
The parent is merely the auditor referencing the blueprint.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. You're deflecting the heat away from yourself.
Exactly. Deflection.
Yeah.
The parent says, hey, according to our family wellness guide that we all agreed to, entertainment screen time is done at 6:00 p.m.
So it's not me telling you to stop, it's the system telling you to stop.
Yes. The conflict is redirected entirely away from the parent-child relationship and toward an objective standard.
The fridge paper.
The fridge paper. The guide explicitly calls this creating a judgment-free zone. You aren't saying you are lazy and addicted to your phone.
Which puts them on the defensive.
Right. Instead, you are saying, the system we built said it's time to transition.
That is fascinating, but I'm sorry, I want to stick with my skepticism here for just a bit longer.
Bring it on.
Let's look at the toddler specifically. A 3-year-old cannot read the paper on the fridge.
True.
They do not care about a family wellness guide. They just know the bright, flashing colors went away.
And they are furious about it.
Furious. How does pointing to a piece of paper help a toddler who who is in a full-blown meltdown on the kitchen floor.
This is where we get into the neurology of visual versus auditory processing during a state of dysregulation.
Okay, I love this stuff. Break it down.
When a toddler is thrown into a tantrum because the screen is removed, their amygdala, which is the brain's threat detector, it fires up.
It goes into overdrive.
And it effectively shuts down the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that handles logic and reasoning.
So they literally can't think straight.
They cannot. Furthermore, when the nervous system is completely flooded with stress hormones, their auditory processing becomes incredibly distorted.
Wait, really? Like they can't hear you?
They literally cannot process the meaning of the words you are saying. Your voice just becomes Charlie Brown teacher noise.
So when we yell, calm down and listen to me, we are essentially speaking a foreign language to a brain that has completely shut down its translation center.
Precisely. You are wasting your breath and escalating the situation.
Okay, so what does the paper do?
Here is the architectural trick. Visual processing pathways often remain far more accessible during a meltdown than auditory ones.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yes. So even if the toddler cannot read the words, if the fridge guide has color-coded sections or pictures like, say, a picture of a tablet with a red circle through it, followed by a picture of a board game or a snack pointing to that physical object, bypasses the overwhelmed auditory system.
It gives them something to look at instead of listen to.
It grounds them in the physical environment. It is a visual anchor. You aren't arguing, you are silently pointing to the physical architecture of the house.
That is brilliant. It's not about the paper itself. It's about having a physical anchor that doesn't require them to process spoken language.
Exactly, it's a circuit breaker.
But let's scale that up to the 14-year-old, right?
The teenager.
Yes. The teenager can read perfectly well.
Very well.
The teenager looks at the fridge paper, says, I don't care about your stupid system, rolls their eyes, and just goes right back to scrolling TikTok.
A very realistic scenario.
Right. The paper has zero actual enforcement power. Removing the parent as the bad guy sounds great in theory, but eventually the parent has to step in and enforce a consequence.
And that is exactly where the system transitions. The cheat sheet on the fridge is the what? It establishes the baseline expectation.
Okay.
When the teenager violates the baseline, you don't argue about the phone anymore.
What do you argue about?
You argue about the agreement. You say, we agreed to this system as a family. You are currently choosing to operate outside the system. What is preventing you from following the agreement?
But they're still going to push back.
Oh, absolutely. They will test the wall to see if it moves.
They're going to disobey. And when kids disobey the fridge paper, parents get frustrated.
Naturally.
And when parents get frustrated, the heart rate spikes, the patience totally vanishes, and we revert right back to being the firefighter. We raise our voices, we yell.
Which brings us to the most vital mechanism of this entire ecosystem.
The final piece of the puzzle.
Yes. The digital cheat sheet is completely useless without the behavioral execution manual. Enter the CALM Guide to Positive Discipline.
Because you have to know how to handle the pushback.
Because you are absolutely right. The system will be tested and disobedience will occur. It's inevitable. How the adult handles that disobedience dictates whether the architecture holds strong or completely collapses.
And the very first thing the CLM guide tackles is the concept of yelling.
It confronts it head on.
Yeah, page 3 is literally titled The Truth About Yelling, because, let's be honest, yelling is the default setting for millions of households.
It's how most of us were raised.
Right, and it feels effective in the moment because the kid usually stops what they are doing when you scream at them.
It gives the illusion of control.
But the CILM guide breaks down why yelling is essentially a completely broken tool.
It is a spectacularly inefficient tool for long-term development. The stated goal of all these built-by-fatherhood materials is to raise cooperative, confident, responsible children.
And yelling doesn't do that.
Yelling achieves the exact opposite. Let's look at the mechanics of a yell for a second.
Okay.
When a parent screams, "Put the phone down right now or you are grounded for a month," what happens inside the child's body?
Well, they freeze or they yell back.
Right. From a physiological standpoint, your loud, aggressive tone immediately triggers their sympathetic nervous system.
You've put them in survival mode?
You have initiated a fight, flight, or freeze response. Just like we talked about with the toddler's tantrum, when you yell, you flood their brain with cortisol.
Oh, man, so you are causing the very brain shutdown we were just talking about trying to avoid.
You are literally shutting down the learning, reasoning, and empathetic centers of their brain. You are terrifying them into compliance.
So they put the phone down, not because they have learned anything about digital wellness or responsibility, but because they perceive you as a physical or emotional threat in that exact second.
Exactly. They aren't learning why the boundary matters.
Right.
They're only learning to fear your reaction.
And they're probably learning to just be sneakier, right?
Right. And more insidiously, yes, they are learning how to hide their behavior better next time so you don't yell at them.
Wow.
You get short-term compliance, but you inflict long-term damage on their emotional intelligence and your connection with them. If your goal is a lasting legacy, fear is a terrible, terrible foundation.
Which is why the CALM guide offers a complete alternative to the firefighter response.
A structured alternative.
They lay out a 4-step CALM parenting framework. And I really want to deconstruct each step of this because this is where the philosophy actually becomes tactical.
Gives you the playbook.
So step 1 is control yourself first. Now, on paper, that sounds lovely.
Very aspirational.
But how does a parent actually achieve this in the heat of the moment? Your teenager just rolled their eyes and swore at you, or your toddler just hurled a heavy wooden toy at your head.
You're triggered.
The adrenaline is instantly in your bloodstream. Telling a parent to control yourself first feels a bit like telling a drowning person to just, swim better.
Yeah.
What is the actual mechanism here?
It's a very fair point, and it's why this is the hardest step of the entire blueprint. It requires deep interoception.
Interoception, what is that?
It's the ability to recognize your own internal physiological state before it dictates your actions.
So feeling your blood pressure rise.
Yes. You have to recognize your own internal alarm bells before the fire spreads to your mouth. Controlling yourself first literally means hacking your own nervous system.
Okay, how? What does that look like practically for the parent standing in the living room?
It relies heavily on understanding the vagus nerve, which acts as the physical brake pedal for your nervous system.
The brake pedal.
Right. When you are triggered by your child's defiance, your heart rate accelerates and your breathing naturally becomes shallow. If you react in that split second, you will yell.
Because your body thinks it's in a fight.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Step 1 requires a physical pattern interrupt. You must take a deliberate, deep breath with a prolonged exhale.
A prolonged exhale. Why the exhale?
A long exhale physically stimulates the vagus nerve, sending a biological signal to your brain that you are actually safe, which automatically lowers your heart rate.
That's a biological hack.
It is. It might mean physically taking a step backward. It might mean mentally reciting a mantra like, "This is not an emergency. My child is struggling, not attacking me."
So you literally have to put your own oxygen mask on first?
Always.
You cannot regulate a dysregulated child if your own nervous system is vibrating with anger.
Precisely. A dysregulated adult cannot regulate a dysregulated child. It is biologically impossible.
Yeah.
You will just escalate each other into a massive power struggle.
Okay, so you take the breath, you stimulate the vagus nerve, you lower your own heart rate.
You are now calm.
You are now a calm architect.
Mm.
Then we move to step 2 of the framework, connect before correcting.
This is a big one.
I think this is where a lot of traditional parents really balk. Because if a kid does something wrong, the immediate instinct is to correct the behavior.
To fix the problem immediately.
Right. Stop crying. Put that down. Don't talk to me like that. Why do we have to connect first? It feels like we're coddling bad behavior.
What's fascinating here is the sequencing. It all goes back to the brain state of the child.
The flooded amygdala.
Exactly. If the child is acting out, refusing to turn off the game, screaming about bedtime, their prefrontal logic center is offline.
Right.
If you immediately jump to correcting, saying, "You know the rule is 30 minutes, why are you doing this?" you are appealing to a part of their brain that is temporarily closed for business.
It's like trying to install software on a computer that is turned off.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Connect before correcting leans on the absolute necessity of emotional validation to reboot their system.
So how do you reboot them?
You have to make the child feel seen and heard. This de-escalates their threat response. Practically, this means getting down on their physical level, making eye contact without glaring, and validating the emotion, not the behavior.
So what does that sound like?
You say, "I see you are incredibly frustrated that we have to turn off the tablet. It is really hard to stop playing a fun game."
Notice you aren't saying it's okay that you threw the tablet across the room.
No, definitely not.
You are just acknowledging the feeling behind the action.
Exactly. You are validating the emotion, which makes them feel psychologically safe. Feeling safe lowers their cortisol levels.
And then the logic center comes back.
Once their physical body relaxes, their logic center comes back online. Now, and only now, is the door open for actual correction.
Which leads right into Step 3, set firm boundaries. And I am
Yes.
so glad this is step 3 because sometimes when people hear terms like new age parenting or positive discipline, they think it just means being relentlessly permissive.
Oh, it's a huge misconception.
They think it means letting your kid walk all over you while you just whisper sweet validations to them all day long.
That is a very common and very dangerous misconception. Positive discipline is absolutely not permissive parenting.
What's the difference?
Permissive parenting lacks structure entirely, which actually creates immense anxiety in children. Children need to know where the walls are to feel secure.
They need the container.
Step 3 is about setting absolute firm boundaries. It is saying, I understand you are angry, but I will not let you hit your brother. Or, I see you want to keep playing the game, but screen time is over for the day.
So the boundary is basically a brick wall. It does not move. The difference is simply in how the wall is presented to them.
Yes. The difference is the delivery of the boundary. It is delivered with empathy and absolute firmness, rather than anger and chaos.
You are the architect pointing out a load-bearing wall rather than a dictator arbitrarily throwing up a roadblock just to ruin their day.
That's a perfect way to phrase it.
And then we reach step 4 of the CALM method. Use positive discipline tools. And this is where the guide really proves its worth as an execution manual, I think.
It gets very granular here.
Yeah, it doesn't just leave you with high-level concepts. It literally gives you scripts. It takes the guesswork out of the heat of the moment.
It provides actionable alternatives to dominance. Instead of yelling, how many times do I have to tell you to clean your room? Oh, you use a positive tool, like offering a defined choice.
So what's the script for that?
You say, do you want to clean up your blocks first or your books?
Let's analyze why that works. Why does offering a choice prevent a meltdown?
Because a meltdown is very often a child's desperate bid for autonomy and control in a world where they have very little.
Right, adults tell them what to do all day long.
When you bark a command, you strip them of all their agency. But when you offer a defined choice within your boundary, where both choices result in the room getting clean, you give them their agency back.
They feel empowered, but you maintain the architecture.
Exactly. You win, they win.
And what I absolutely love is how these disparate sources from our stack today interlock right here.
Yes, the synergy.
There's a specific section in the CALM guide titled Reducing Screen Battles. This directly connects back to our father's ROS digital cheat sheet from earlier.
It's where the rubber meets the road.
Right. You have the age-appropriate boundaries on the fridge. The teenager tests the boundary. You feel yourself getting angry. Step 1, control yourself. Take the breath.
Stimulate the vagus nerve.
Step 2, connect. I know it sucks to log off when your friends are still gaming. Step 3, firm boundary. But our family system says screens are off at 8 p.m.
And then step 4.
Step 4, positive tool. Do you want to read a book or do you want to help me make a snack in the kitchen?
It is a perfectly integrated system. The cheat sheet provides the what, and the CALM method provides the how.
It's brilliant.
And when you execute both consistently over time, the child learns that the boundaries are immovable, but also that they are deeply loved and respected, even when they are terribly frustrated.
Okay, so we have this beautiful philosophy of family leadership. We have the printouts for the fridge. We have the neurobiologically backed CALM method for handling the pushback.
A whole toolkit.
But, you know, philosophy and acronyms are great until it's 6:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. Someone can't find their shoes. The toddler is crying because the milk is in the wrong colored cup.
A classic crisis.
And the teenager is scrolling TikTok instead of eating breakfast. The theory is sound, but busy families need to know how to actually apply this Monday through Sunday without needing, like, a PhD in psychology.
Right. How do you live it?
Exactly. How do we gamify this blueprint so it actually becomes a lifestyle?
Execution requires structure, which brings us to the active tools provided in the back half of the CALM guide and the Father's RUSS Manifesto.
The really tactical stuff.
If you want to stop firefighting every morning and every evening, you have to look at the Family Routine Builder worksheet and their focus on building independence and responsibility.
Worksheets. Okay.
These aren't just reading materials. These are active engineering exercises for your family's time.
Let's talk about routines then. Why are routines the secret weapon here? We all have a basic idea of a routine, but why does writing it down on a worksheet actually change the dynamic?
Because routines drastically reduce cognitive load and decision fatigue for both the parent and the child.
Cognitive load.
Yes. As we touched on earlier, most behavioral meltdowns occur during transitions.
Waking up, leaving the house.
Turning off a screen, going to bed. Transitions are incredibly hard because they require the brain to shift gears from a preferred activity to a non-preferred activity.
And if there is no set routine, every single transition requires a brand new negotiation.
Exactly. If every morning is just a chaotic series of verbal commands, eat your breakfast, go brush your teeth, find your shoes, put your coat on, you are exhausting yourself.
And you're basically providing a dozen opportunities for the child to resist.
A routine builder worksheet allows the family to sit down in a calm moment outside of the transition and map out exactly how mornings work.
First breakfast, then teeth, then shoes.
And because it's written down, it goes right back to the fridge paper concept we talked about.
Oh, the parent isn't the one demanding the shoes be put on. The routine demands it.
Precisely. When the routine dictates the action, the parent simply facilitates the routine. You just ask, what does your chart say is next?
It totally deflects the conflict again.
It does. And it builds independence because the child eventually internalizes the sequence. They manage themselves, the transition from being managed by you to being self-led.
Okay, I love that. But building a routine on a lazy Sunday afternoon and actually sticking to it on a chaotic Wednesday morning are two totally different realities.
They are. It takes work.
And this is where I got incredibly enthusiastic about the tactical application of all this. The CALM guide provides a 30-day positive discipline action plan.
That's a great feature.
I love this framing. It completely changes the expectation. It treats family behavioral health like a fitness boot camp.
That is a highly accurate analogy.
Right. I mean, if I want to run a marathon, I don't just read a book about running, close the book, and then go run 26 miles the next morning.
You'd collapse.
I would. If I want to get in shape, I don't read a fitness book once and expect a six-pack by Tuesday. You need a regimen. You need to build the muscle.
You have to train.
You start small, you practice every day, and you expect to be sore. This guide is telling parents, you cannot just read about being a calm, intentional leader and expect to execute it perfectly tomorrow. You have to train for it.
You are actively building new neurological pathways. This is about neuroplasticity.
For the parents too, right?
Especially for the parents. You are rewiring decades of conditioned responses, learning how to pause instead of yell, learning how to stimulate your vagus nerve on command.
Which takes incredible practice.
And for the child, you are rewiring how they process transitions and regulate their own frustration. You cannot rewire a human brain in an afternoon. It takes sustained daily repetition.
Which is why the 30 days is so key.
A 30-day action plan provides built-in accountability and, crucially, it allows for failure.
Because you will fail.
You will. It says, okay, we completely messed up the morning routine today. We yelled. It was a disaster. But tomorrow is day 14 of the plan. Let's try again. It moves these high-level concepts out of the abstract and into a daily, measurable reality.
And here is the genius part of the Built by Fatherhood ecosystem. It is not just a solo mission for the parent acting as the warden.
No, it's a team effort.
The required focus of all these materials is that it has to be positively engaging for the whole family.
That is vital.
It cannot just be top-down dictation where the parent restricts the kids' screens and strictly enforces routines while the parent sits on the couch scrolling their own phone.
Hypocrisy destroys the architecture instantly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The manifesto heavily emphasizes screen-free family challenges and actual family bonding activities.
That is the crucial final piece of the architecture right there.
Yeah.
You cannot just strip things away from a kid.
You can't just leave a vacuum.
No. You cannot just remove the tablet, limit the social media, strictly enforce the morning routine, and leave a massive emotional void.
Right.
The modern child's digital ecosystem, as flawed as it is, provides them with entertainment, dopamine, and social connection. If you take that away with your fridge cheat sheet, you have to replace it with something of equal or greater emotional value.
You have to replace digital isolation with real-world connection.
Exactly. If the rule is no screens after dinner, the immediate follow-up from the architect parent has to be, so here is what we are doing instead.
Because if everyone just powers down their devices and then goes to their separate corners of the house in silence,
the system will eventually collapse because it feels like a punishment.
right. But if the replacement is a family bonding activity like a board game or cooking together or a screen-free challenge where everyone goes for a walk, suddenly the boundary isn't a prison sentence.
It is an invitation.
An invitation to connect. I love that.
It creates a culture of mutual participation. And this is where the concept of intentional fatherhood or just intentional parenting truly crystallizes.
It becomes real.
The parent isn't just policing the child's screen time. The parent is actively putting their own phone in a drawer looking the child in the eye, and participating in the real world alongside them.
You are modeling the behavior you are demanding.
You are showing them that life without a screen is not only possible, but actually joyful. That is what true leadership looks like.
It is the ultimate shift from just surviving parenthood to actually thriving as a family unit.
It really is.
Okay, we have covered an immense amount of ground today, diving incredibly deep into the psychology and the practical tools. Let's synthesize this entire journey for you, the listener.
Let's recap.
We started by tearing down the old model. The Father's RSS manifesto challenged us to stop being reactive firefighters and become intentional architects.
To shift from dictators demanding compliance to leaders guiding a legacy.
From there, we mapped out the digital minefield with the age-by-age screen time cheat sheet. We explored the neurology of why a visual, age-appropriate system on the refrigerator works so much better than a parent barking orders.
Because it removes the parent as the bad guy and establishes that objective, judgment-free boundary.
Then, because we know kids will inevitably test those boundaries, we broke down the biological failure of yelling and replaced it with the CALM method.
Right, learning how to stimulate our own vagus nerve to control ourselves first.
Why we must emotionally connect to bypass a child's hijacked amygdala, how to set an immovable but empathetic boundary, and how to use positive tools like choices to give them agency.
And finally, we gamified the whole thing.
We looked at how worksheets and routines reduce decision fatigue, why a 30-day action plan is totally necessary to rewire the family's neural pathways, and how replacing screens with mutual bonding activities makes the whole process positively engaging for everyone involved.
It is a profound shift in daily operations. And, this raises an important, deeply personal question for everyone listening right now.
Let's hear it.
I want you to mentally walk through your own household right now. When a transition goes wrong, when it's time to leave for school, or time to turn off the TV, what is the default reaction in your home?
Is it a spike in heart rate?
Is it a raised voice? Or is it handing over a screen just to buy 10 minutes apiece?
We've all been there.
And if so, how might introducing just one piece of this architecture, perhaps just a visual routine mapped out on paper, begin to rewrite that stressful default? How much conflict, how much cortisol could be spared simply by clarifying the blueprint before the fire even has a chance to start?
That is the perfect diagnostic question to ponder, but I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over as we close out today's deep dive.
Oh, I like provocative.
We have spent this entire hour talking about how these new age tools are designed to raise cooperative, confident, emotionally healthy children. We have talked about child neurodevelopment, fixing their screen habits, and managing their tantrums.
It's all focused on the kid.
Right. It is entirely focused on building a better child. But think about the mechanics of what you are actually doing as the adult. If you truly commit to this, if you really engage in this 30-day boot camp.
It's intense work.
It is. If you force yourself to stop yelling, to recognize your own triggers, to physically regulate your breathing before you speak, to validate emotions before correcting behavior, and to intentionally put your own phone away to engage in the present moment.
I see where you're going with this.
Isn't it highly likely that engaging in this rigorous process will end up completely rewiring your emotional intelligence just as much, if not more, than your child's?
It's unavoidable. You change yourself in the process.
Consider the possibility that setting these intentional, healthy boundaries for your kids might secretly be the ultimate digital detox and emotional boot camp for yourself.
That's a powerful realization.
We started today talking about how the modern parenting crisis is an architecture problem. But the beautiful thing about being the architect is that you get to live in the fireproof house, too. Until next time, keep digging deep.